The Sacramento Kings elect not to make any more moves and stay put on trade deadline day, which has much of Kings social media in an uproar. Fans are upset, and yet this is not only the most likely scenario and has been the most likely scenario for the Kings on trade deadline day. It is the correct scenario for Monty McNair and this front office. I'll try to explain why on this episode of the Locked On Kings podcast.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season long. Today, presented by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer for ABC 10 in my home studio today, and it's a good thing because I'm a little fired up. I'm fired up based off of the responses that I've seen to this trade deadline from Sacramento Kings fans. Now, let me start with this clarification so I make it abundantly clear, and I'm very consistent with this throughout every podcast recording that I ever have. I expect many of you, if not the majority of you, to disagree with me. That is okay. You can have the opinions that you want, and I am never ever intending to tell you how to fan. However, if I feel that you are overreacting or not taking the right things into account, if I feel that your reaction to the lack of Kings moves here at the trade deadline and this doom and gloom idea that the Kings are now destined to be a play-in team, if I think it's ridiculous, I'm going to say it's ridiculous. And I would hope that you would have the same respect for me as I have for you, audience to host and vice versa. And this has never been a platform where I stand on a podium and yell down at you, peasants who don't know what you're talking about, and you should listen to me. I'm not that important. I'm just a guy who loves the Sacramento Kings, who loves the game of basketball, who believes he knows what he's talking about, and actually is fortunate enough to have connections with the Kings organization as a professional media member who is paid to share his opinions. And even if I wasn't paid, I'm very thankful that I've gotten my career to a position where I can support my family doing this. I would say the same things and feel the same way. I have to get that out of the way because I am currently being accused on social media of telling fans how to fan for adamantly disagreeing with their reactions, emotional reactions to the Kings not making any moves at the trade deadline. If you've listened to the Locked On Kings podcast over the last couple of weeks, you've heard consistently me say that it is a likelihood, a high likelihood that the Sacramento Kings were going to either make very minor moves or no moves at all at this trade deadline. That doesn't mean that Monty McNair sat on his hands. And that doesn't mean that I look at this Kings roster and go, there are no holes. This roster is perfect as is. And the Kings should just stand put because there's no way they can improve this roster. That's not what I'm saying at all. There are clear defensive issues. There's clear backup center issues, wing depth issues, maybe even backup point guard if you're not a believer in Davion Mitchell. There are so many areas where the Sacramento Kings could have addressed this team, but the reality is any move that Monty McNair realistically was going to be involved in was a depth move, someone who at best is coming in to be a seventh or eighth man. That's still important to the success of the Sacramento Kings, but here is the nail that I'm going to repeatedly hit on the head. This Kings core six, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, and Kevin Huerter. That core six is going to take the Kings as far as they're going to go. And I can even simplify it even more down to a core two. Fox and Sabonis and that supporting core are going to take this team as far as they were going to go. And that was always the case for this year. And while you can see the Suns getting Kevin Durant and the Dallas Mavericks getting Kyrie Irving and the Los Angeles Clippers and the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors making the moves that they've been making over the last 24 hours or so and get concerned based off the fact that all those teams are gunning for the Sacramento Kings spot. I understand that completely, and you're completely justified in that concern. You're not wrong there. But my point is, Monty McNair already made his splash move. Another splash move was not going to happen. As much as we want to dream about these scenarios of OG Anunoby being available or a team being willing to accept Harrison Barnes for some star that realistically was not going to happen. In addition to that, I think it would have been a disaster for the Kings to trade any of this core six and risk affecting what this Beam team has going and their locker room chemistry and on-court chemistry and everything like that. I've been consistent with that too. Those trades were never going to happen. Those deals were never going to happen. And they didn't have to happen this year. Look at the position that the Suns are in. Look at the position that the Dallas Mavericks are in. The Phoenix Suns were in the the NBA Finals just a couple of years ago. The Dallas Mavericks were in the Western Conference Finals last year. The Golden State Warriors were the NBA champions and are trying to get back into the picture. The Los Angeles Lakers have LeBron James and they're the Lakers, so they always have to try to be in the mix. And the Los Angeles Clippers are a really, really good team as well. There are a ton of teams in the West right now that are in win now windows. And then there's the Sacramento Kings that are in the third seed that would love to win right now, but they absolutely don't have to. Look at the timeline of what Monty McNair has put together. A core of players that are all around 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 years old. Guys that are going to be growing through the league together and all hitting their primes at the same time. Guys that are hopefully going to be together to become a championship core a year or two down the road. So while teams are panicking on how they're going to respond to what the Phoenix Suns did and finding a player to defend Kevin Durant as if that's even a possibility, while all these teams are getting ready for each other and their championship or bust runs, the Sacramento Kings are playing with house money. Now, that doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to be in this position in the future. And I understand everyone who's saying, you're in this position right now, why not go for it? Don't waste it. I hear you. Believe me, I hear you. But one, we don't know the context of what conversations Monty McNair is having. Two, I know Mason Plumlee and Richardson and Matisse Thybulle and so many names out there that ended up being moved today were all on the wish list of Sacramento Kings fans. I get it. It's a mob mentality. One starts talking about it, and then we all start talking about it and like the idea, and then we move from one to the other. We start to imagine how perfect it would be and have all these expectations. In reality, we have no idea. And Monty McNair and his front office have clearly done enough over the last 3 years to where they have earned our trust. Whatever Monty decides to do or not to do should be accepted as the right move at the time for Kings fans. You might be disappointed. It might not be what you want, but it is not a reason to have these ridiculous overreactions that I've been seeing of the Kings are doomed to fall into the play-in picture. They're doomed to lose the third seed. You know, honestly, that's extremely disrespectful to what this team has done to get to this point. And I don't mean this to be offensive to people, but I think it's true. It's really energy that you see from fans who don't know how to support a winning team. And hi, Matt George here, fan of a losing team for the last 16 years. I'm not exactly someone who can stand on a pedestal and preach to you about how to fan for a winning team. I'm figuring it out as I go too. But just accepting that the Kings are going to be bad now because of other moves that other teams made, dismissing the fact that well over halfway through the season, the Sacramento Kings are in the third seed. They're 8 games over 500. And this core and this team with the holes that they have as constructed right now got them there in the first place. To say that they're now just going to fall apart and fall out of the playoff picture into the play-in picture simply because Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are now in the West is extremely disrespectful to how well this team has performed to this point. And that core that Monty McNair was not going to touch, that core is always going to be and was always going to be the difference maker in the Kings being a top 4 seed or not. Think about the conversations that we're having right now. And think about months ago when we were just hoping that this Kings team would at best be a 6 seed and not be able and make it through the plan. I do not care how many games back 5th place, 6th place, 7th place, 8th place, 9th place, 10th place. I don't care how close they are to the Sacramento Kings. I don't, because the Kings are in this position. And you can make up all the hypothetical scenarios you want of what if this had happened? What if the Kings had this season to this point and they weren't in this position? They are in that position. And with 28 games to go, you're damn right there's plenty of time for the Kings to slide. But this team has earned my trust from what I have seen consistently throughout this season, their ability to respond, their ability to avoid long losing streaks, their success on the road. They just came off of a 7-game road trip where they faced a lot of adversity, shot terribly, and missed their star for 2 games, and they're coming home 4-3 through that 7-game trip. What more do you have to see for this team to earn your trust? And there's no guarantee that Kevin Durant going to Phoenix is going to work. There's no guarantee that Kyrie going to the Mavericks is going to work. Sure, they won their first game. Kyrie and Luka didn't play together, and we're going to get to see that for the first time this weekend. Those games are crucial. And here is the main point that I want to hit. No matter what the Kings did today or didn't do today, what's most important is the experience that Fox, Sabonis, and this Kings core are going to get over the next 28 games and the playoffs in addition to that. What is going to happen over these next 28 games, whether the Kings win or lose, succeed or fail, they are going to get the experience that they need to take the next step. You were never going to jump that rung on the ladder. You were never going to get a shortcut by trading for a seventh or eighth man in the rotation. I understand every single point of wanting to bolster the rotation or find someone who's a better option to relieve Domantas Sabonis of some of the stress, right? You don't want Domantas Sabonis playing 40 minutes a night for the remainder of the season. You want him and De'Aaron Fox as fresh as possible for a playoff run. But I'm telling you, if it's close, if it's coming down to the wire, and in the playoffs itself, the Kings are going to go for 40 minutes a night from both Sabonis and Fox. I'm telling you, it's going to happen because it needs to happen. And no matter what they did at this trade line deadline, outside of an unrealistic big splash move, that was not going to change. Monty McNair did not have to make a move to respond like so many other teams did in the Western Conference. He did not have to. He was fine as is. He is playing with house money. He's in a position of power where no matter what happens for the remainder of this season, he will get that important context. He'll go into next offseason. And I know that you're staring at these 9 second-round picks that the Sacramento Kings have over the next handful of drafts and going, why the hell didn't the Kings use them when there were multiple trades where I think Jay Crowder got traded for 5 second-rounders and Sadiq Bey or something like that. The Warriors traded something for 5 second-rounders, or I have no idea. There were multiple trades that happened today where 5+ second-rounders were sent in those trades. I understand you looking at the second-rounders and how other trades were happening around the league and going, why couldn't the Kings get involved in that? Number one, those second-round picks are not expired. They're not gone. The Kings still have them. They did not have to make a move with those second-round picks today. They could be in a better position to make an even better move this offseason or next year because they have those draft picks. So they're not gone. The trade exemption, the trade exemption that they got, the $4 million trade exception that they got from the Tyrese Halliburton trade, that does expire. It's disappointing the Kings didn't use that. They used one of them that they had on Kessler Edwards. So that's the only thing that goes away. But the assets that the Sacramento Kings have are not gone now. They don't just disappear because Monty McNair didn't make a move. So that's number one. Number two is that Monty is putting Sacramento in a position to build upon what they're able to do this year. He's leaving his options open and not knee-jerk reacting to what the rest of the league is doing. And Monty has been completely consistent with that throughout his tenure as a general manager. This is his first job as a GM, and he's completely turned this organization around. And at this point in time, you might be looking at me and listening at me and going, man, this is just a homer who's defending the organization like they're paying him. They're not. They have no interest in what I'm saying, and I have no interest in kissing their ass or not. This is what I firmly believe. I think the Sacramento Kings made the right moves today by not making too many moves. And would I have liked to see Mason Plumlee here? Would I have liked to see Richardson? Would I like to see Matisse Thybulle? Sure. I wanted the Kings to potentially go out and get Josh Hart. I was disappointed when he got moved yesterday. Sure. But I don't know the context of the conversations that Monty McNair is having. And like I said earlier, Monty has earned my trust to where if the deal is right, if the deal is available and the package that the Kings are sending out in order to bring in that player or those players is good, then Monty will pull the trigger. If he doesn't, then clearly he didn't agree with what was going to be sent out. And I understand people wanting to move second-round picks when they see other picks being moved, but we can't just take what other teams are doing and cut and paste the Kings into that deal and replace another team and say, see, that's all it took. Right? Like the Matisse Thybulle trade for Jaden McDaniels to the Portland Trailblazers. The Kings didn't have Jaden McDaniels, and McDaniels is a nice pickup, I think, for the Philadelphia 76ers. So that context, while you could be disappointed that another team got that asset that you wanted and you didn't get, you can't just say, man, the Kings could have made a better offer than that. I saw someone sent to me that the Kings could have made a more attractive offer than the Suns made for Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant wanted to go to Phoenix, and that is a massive reason why that trade happened. Kyrie Irving liked the idea of going to the Dallas Mavericks. That's a massive reason why that trade happened. The influence of players and agents also plays a major part. That's why the Los Angeles Lakers keep getting the deals that they get, like the D'Angelo Russell deal, even though they have zero assets really to offer. So I get the frustration. Clearly, I'm frustrated too by the reaction. What bothers me most is not those of you who are just disappointed and wanted to see the Kings do more. I get you. What bothers me most is the people that are dismissing the context of the season to this point, pretending that what the Kings have done over these 50 and some odd games, like 52, 53 games, maybe 54, whatever it is, I don't even know, and just saying that these final 28 games are going to be a disaster simply because of what other teams have done. You can be disappointed. You can be frustrated. You can be underwhelmed. I expected plenty of people to, but don't. I mean, you can if you want to, but it's going to bother me if you keep coming to me on my social media and I keep seeing my mentions, or I see in my comment section, or I get emails from people saying the Kings are screwed. It's all over. Monty McNair has failed us. Monty McNair is terrible. When just a couple weeks ago, we were celebrating the Kings being on another, 6-game win streak. And the Kings are in the position that nobody expected them to be in at this point in time. The Kings are not complacent. Monty McNair is not complacent. I guarantee you he was working the phones. I can tell you with absolute certainty he was working the phones and having discussions with people. The right deals were clearly not there for him. If you're disappointed, I get you. And you're damn right you should be nervous with the final 28 games of the season with the race in the Western Conference. But this is the position that we always wanted the Kings to be in. This is the position where the Kings are going to learn how to win or fail and hopefully learn from that failure. This is it. The playoffs essentially start right now, in my opinion. Secure this position as a top seed in the West or don't. And if you slide and if you fall out of it a little bit, fall as far as 6. Figure it out. And it was always going to be on this core to figure it out. While Monty could have made little small moves, sure, he didn't. And that's okay because this core is proven to be good enough to be in the position that they're in. Does Kevin Durant on the Suns make me nervous, and that Suns team that is now the favorite to win the West or should be the favorite to win the West? Does that team concern me? You're damn right. The Kings play them 3 more times, including on Valentine's Day next week. However, Kevin Durant is not expected to play in that game, or I think it's known that Kevin Durant is not going to play and return until after the All-Star break. So that might be a must-win game for the Kings. Not to mention these 2 games against the Dallas Mavericks coming up on Friday and Saturday, tomorrow and Saturday. It starts right away. The Kings have 6 more games, 3 against the Mavericks, 3 against the Suns. Plus, they have some games against the Clippers. They still have some games against the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, it's put up or shut up time. But this is where we wanted the Kings to be. And no matter what Monty does and did or didn't do at the trade deadline, that didn't change. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members that you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based off your job qualifications, all on just one platform. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. You've heard me say it before. It's like having a NBA scouting department or top tier scouting, talent scouting department for free for your small business. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, if you've made it this far, first off, I appreciate you and for you putting up with all that rant and all that energy. And maybe you agree with me. Maybe you adamantly disagree with me. I appreciate you nonetheless. I want to make this abundantly clear again. No matter how you feel about what the Kings did, No matter how you feel about what the Kings are doing any given night, I want you to know this is a place where you are safe and you are welcome to share those opinions. If you ever feel attacked by the opinions that I have, I hope to never be in a position where I say something as stupid and horrible as calling you an idiot for having your opinion, or putting myself in a position where you feel like I'm demeaning you. And I hope you never feel that way. If I ever am, reach out to me and talk to me about it, because I want to make sure that that is not the case here. That is not what this environment is about. But I want to engage in discussion with you. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, send me an email. Jump in the comment section. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the moves that you felt the Kings could have made. Let's talk about how you're feeling about the remainder of the season. Because like I said, it's not going to be a cakewalk. And it wasn't going to be a cakewalk even before the Kevin Durant trade. I think the Durant trade spooked the rest of the league and spooked a lot of Kings fans. And I guarantee you what was happening amongst the Kings fan base this morning and last night after that Durant trade was happening amongst every other fan base in the playoff picture in the Western Conference. The Suns made a massive move. It's also a massive gamble with them giving up multiple players and 4 first-round picks plus a pick swap. They're going all in. They kind of have to. They're in a position where they have to go all in right now. The window is now, and other teams with the same window, the pressure's on them, not the Kings. I would love to see the Kings put together a great run this year. I would love to be proven wrong and have them make it to the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals or to win the whole damn thing. Of course we want that. And maybe a move at this trade deadline would have made that more or less possible. I have no idea, but I trust Monty McNair and I trust this front office, number one. And two, I am realistic with what was available to the Sacramento Kings and what wasn't available. I'm also realistic to what certain players would have brought to the Kings and what was a little too much optimism. And that's coming from blind optimist Matt George, right? I totally get anyone underwhelmed by this trade deadline. And I know I've said that many, many times already, and I'm a broken record at this point, but I'm going to continue to make that known. I understand you, and I'm not saying you're wrong, or I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I believe differently. My opinion is different. That is not a fact. That is an opinion. But it's my opinion based off of my understanding of the situation and my understanding of the league. And I choose to share this opinion and want to share this opinion to you so that we can engage in conversation. Hopefully you can learn something. And I promise you, I learned plenty from talking to you. If you really thought that Mason Plumlee or Josh Richardson or Matisse Thybulle, who are going to come in and play at most like 15 to 18 minutes a night, and that's generous, as a 7th or 8th option, maybe pushing Trey Lyles down a peg or two behind Malik Monk as the 6th man, and Davion Mitchell maybe getting pushed down a little bit too. If you really thought that that was out there, tell me. And tell me why you feel so strongly that it would have made that big of a difference. Maybe you can win me over. Maybe you can sway me. You guys make phenomenal points, and I tweeted this out earlier. Sacramento Kings fans are amongst the brightest and most realistic in the league because you've kind of been molded that way over the last 16 years. But also, Sacramento Kings fans have and I'm speaking about the vocal minority here. There's plenty of Kings fans who don't really interact, who just listen to this podcast and then go watch games and support how they choose to support, and I appreciate you too. But a lot of Sacramento Kings fans have this doom and gloom mindset or this expectation that things are going to go wrong. And I understand that's been instilled in you based off of how bad this team has been for so long. And it's probably going to take them making the playoffs this year to earn your trust, and maybe them making the playoffs consistently over the next couple of years and really putting together a deep run for you to finally kind of break out of that. I understand that completely. I want to be with you as part of that journey and hopefully help you either see things from a different perspective or maybe sometimes learn from you and have my perspective change because of what you're bringing to the table. So if you felt that a trade at this deadline was really going to make that big of a difference, let's talk about it and tell me why. But I'm also going to be realistic with you about the value of the assets that the Sacramento Kings have. Think about this. If you as a fan are trying to run this organization and you're saying the Kings need to move on from Richaun Holmes and his bad contract and he doesn't play here, I think he has value. First off, Sam Amick said on Sacktown Sports 1140 radio this morning on the Carmichael J show with Jason Ross that Richaun Holmes has no value, which was consistent to what I was hearing during this offseason. Richaun Holmes, because of his contract, has little to no value, and that was not going to change because Richaun has been in and out of the Sacramento Kings rotation and pretty much has lost his spot to Chimezie Metu consistently this year. Like, let's be realistic. A team is not going to give you the assets that you want, a better player and a more impactful player for Rashawn Holmes and his contract. And it wasn't just going to take as much as maybe you thought, oh, the Kings could have given 5 second-round picks for Jay Crowder. Do you think Jay Crowder? I like Jay Crowder a lot. Do you think he would have made that much of a difference? Do you think the Kings giving 5 second-round draft picks to bring Jay Crowder into Sacramento, do you think that would have been the difference between the Kings securing a top 4 seed and falling into either 5-6 or into the play-in 7-8? If so, man, you put a lot of weight into Jay Crowder. I put weight into my realistic expectations, at least as far as I feel, realistic expectations of what kind of assets were out there and what kind of players were out there that Monty could realistically acquire for the talent that he was willing to trade. And more importantly, I put my expectations into this core who is going to make or break this season for the Kings. Make or break this season. And while maybe Fox and Domas and Monk and Herter and Murray maybe would have loved to have had a player or two more to help them out and a little extra reinforcement, it takes 2 to tango. You need to have both teams there to agree. And we don't know if Monty McNair was in the position where he was getting a bunch of phone calls and saying no to a bunch of people, or maybe he was the one calling about Richardson or about Thibault or about Plumlee, and those teams weren't accepting what he was willing to offer. We have no idea. And we probably never will know. And sometimes that's information that I wish we had to make more educated decisions or have more informed conversation. And sometimes that information does come out. But I'm telling you, if that information comes out of this front office, that's not a good thing. Trust Monty McNair. Trust what the Sacramento Kings are doing. And believe that this team is capable of maintaining what they've been able to do for the majority of the season now to this point. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. This year, the only app that you need at Super Bowl parties is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Of course, there's a hyper focus right now on the Super Bowl and on football, but there's so many fun bets around the Sacramento Kings and the NBA in general on FanDuel, plus so many other sports. And best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So once you make money on your Kings knowledge, cash that in, baby, and go buy yourself a pair of tickets and treat yourself to a game at the Golden One Center. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I still feel like the winner of the NBA Finals this year, the NBA champion, is coming out of the East. But boy, if we got a Milwaukee Bucks and Phoenix Suns rematch, or if we get a Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns NBA Finals now, or maybe we'll get some great, like a rematch of the Phoenix Suns and Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie versus KD, of course, Luka versus Booker in the playoffs. From just an NBA standpoint, if we put our Kings fandom aside here, we're gearing up to an incredibly fun remainder of the season. And no matter what, this is way better, even if it's stressful, even if it's put us at odds against each other. This is way more fun than simulating Tankathon. Just over a year ago, Monty McNair put this all into motion with the big splash move of his career, putting his career on the line to trade Tyrese Halliburton, amongst others, for Domantas Sabonis. It's absolutely put the Kings in a position where they didn't have to scramble this year like they did last year. Compare how they approached last year's trade deadline, going nowhere with another losing team and a fan base that was not willing to even support the team. Attendance was down. Fans weren't really watching. They didn't have any reason to. To today, where tomorrow night, even after these trades, the Golden One Center is going to be sold out, beyond sold out. I expect that for both these games this weekend. We have one NBA All-Star, probably going to be two, with De'Aaron Fox getting an injury reserve opportunity. I mean, he should get it at this point with both Steph Curry and Zion being out. This is such a tremendous position to be in. And I'm so thankful that the Kings are, one, finally this good that I can enjoy covering them the way I have been this season on Locked On Kings. but they're finally in this position to give this fan base what they deserve. Whether fans are upset today or happy today or just kind of neutral, whatever, we all deserve for this team to finally be in this position. And I truly think, even if there are going to be some low points, these final 28 games are going to be a hell of a ride. They're going to be a lot of fun, and I believe in this team's ability to maintain where they're at. I believe in it. I would feel comfortable at this point putting money on the Kings securing a top 4 seed. If you don't, I understand why. Completely understand why. It's only going to get harder for the Kings. I believe in this team, and I'm excited to see what they do when they're really put to the test. Iron sharpens iron, or in this case, pressure makes diamonds, whatever cliche you want. When De'Aaron Fox is put under the pressure in the fourth quarter, he's clearly shined. Domantas Sabonis is a massive difference to this team. Plus, Sacramento has continued to win despite struggling from shooting, and we know how well they shoot or inside the Golden One Center. This team can do it. This team, as constructed, can do it. I'm excited to see what they do when they have the opportunity to try and accomplish a goal that we never thought possible. The remainder of the season is going to be a ton of fun. I hope you will join me for that again. Let me know your thoughts on this trade deadline, any frustrations that you have, thoughts on the Kevin Durant move, thoughts on everything. I'm free all day. Let's respond. Let's talk. Let's chat. I'm excited. And I mean, this is great. This is just great. I really appreciate your support as usual. I truly, truly love you guys so much. And I hope you know how much I appreciate you, even if we disagree, even if sometimes you get under my skin a little bit with some of your thoughts and some of your opinions. Just know that I'm sure I get under your skin too, and I appreciate you nonetheless. Thank you so much for listening to the Locked On Kings podcast. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode. Until then, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.